Digitally accessible. Digital accessibility simplified.
Hi, this is Juan Olarte from Digitally Accessible. Welcome to our Accessibility One-on-One podcast series. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Today we have Samuel Tesfamichael, and he's going to talk to us about accessibility. Samuel, thank you so much for being part of the podcast. And can you please tell us a bit more about you and how you started in accessibility?
Yeah, so I've worked, I would say, for the last, God, almost 18, 20 years now, was in web design and development. So I started as web designer, uh, then web developer. I also worked as a sort of UX designer. But I came into accessibility because I think somebody sort of commented on a design that I did. I remember having like an H1 in my design followed by H3, which looks good visually, and had things like that all over. And somebody said, this is not actually great accessibility practice. You may want to go in order from H1 to H2. So I don't really understand why. Then I start digging into it, and I learn about screen readers, and slowly start learning about other assistive technologies. So that's really where I realized, I was not really doing things, inclusive way and from the right way. Just I was really focused on visual look and feel. So that's really how I kind of went into accessibility, and it just went from there.
Yeah, thanks. You know what I like about it is that you started from the design and development perspective. A lot of the times is, in my experience, it's great to be there because you know how to change or how to um, do development and be able to go right away and making the changes into the website. That's actually really important. Samuel, when talking about accessibility, what are some of the things you wish you knew when you first started with it?
I would say I wish I knew in particular about screen readers way early, because screen readers do open, your mind into how you should code. So you focus in mostly on the best practice, which comes free with HTML, right? Using semantic HTML, just using it the way it was created to be. So I wish I knew more about screen readers, because a lot of my years, I would say, in the beginning was spent on really on specializing in CSS. And with CSS, you could do a lot of creative things, but at the same time, you could really, uh, create a lot of problems where something looks on top, but technically it's actually in the bottom, and things like that. So I wish I knew about screen readers a lot earlier.
Yes, you know what? I agree. Being able to have or exposure to assistive technologies early on is great. And I encourage everybody to really go out there and learn about screen readers, whether it's going to be for iOS, mobile devices, desktop, or even the Mac operating systems. But also I encourage for people to learn more about other assistive technologies, screen magnification, speech recognition. So that's a great point. Being able to start utilizing assistive technologies early on. Now, can you tell us a bit about of a big accessibility problem that you faced and how did you fix it?
Yeah, so I think some of the challenge that I faced is, for example, when you are dynamically showing an update, we use ARIA Live to announce, but I have been into a project where changing some things were actually updating multiple things above, the focus line. So that was a bit of a problem. And what I learned, well, I know this is different from screen reader to screen reader, but if you actually do use polite instead of assertive, like ARIA equals to polite, it does still read it in order, it would read one and it would go to the other one. But when you do assertive, I think it just reads, I can't even remember, just the first one or the second one. So that was one challenge for sure. Another one was something about footnotes where uh, you have multiple links that go to the same footnote. And so when you do back, do you go back to the first one, second one, or do you just go on the top? So that was another issue, but I think I later found out technically you could do it using JavaScript. It basically almost acts as a browser back button. When you click on one, it would go to the footnote you were before.
Yeah, that's an interesting issue. I know I've worked in a lot of applications where you have to provide accessibility feedback for users, and you're correct. Utilizing the area live region is going to be one of them, and switching from polite to assertive gives a big difference because when it's polite, it lets the system technology actually um, see or complete the user interaction, and then it's going to talk about that. And another thing to consider is probably using the area atomic as well, which is in combination with the area polite and area assertive in terms of the live region. Thank you so much. That's actually a very good um, a very good issue to have and to talk about. Um, so, what are some of the important things you do when ensuring that accessibility gets added to a project or early on within development life cycle? Do you have a process you usually follow?
Yeah, at this point, actually, we're pretty in where I work in my company. We're pretty accessibility aware, so we really consider accessibility early on. Sometimes even starting from wireframe, where you can sort of notice certain things. So I would say we start from design phase, and uh, a lot of the time you can't actually catch things just from the design. I mean, color is one of them, but if you have a lot of learn more, click here type of stuff, or even you look at a layout and you see the desktop version and you see the mobile, if it's not really stacking properly in the way it should, but there's a different presentation for mobile, that could cause a problem sometimes because screen readers just care about what's in the DOM, right? So I would say we're good at catching things ahead of time now because we are involved early on, and our UX is pretty open for feedback. So we kind of go back and forth, and I would say catch most of it during design phase.
Yes, I like that. I think design phase is very important, especially when it comes to wireframes, annotations. Accessibility at that point is really preventive and it's going to help everybody. I completely agree with you. Now, you talk about the design phase, but also you go from design to development to testing. How do you engage different teams within the organization or different stakeholders to ensure accessibility is taken under consideration? Do you have a specific type of process or technique or training? I would like to hear more about that.
Yeah, so in terms of developers are really part of the discussion in design. So because eventually they are going the one who are going to code it, they do catch a lot of these things early. And, stakeholders usually they want to ensure, obviously, they want to finish a budget on time, and I mean, project on budget and was on time. But at the same time, if you let them know doing it this way will actually cause a problem for, let's say, assistive technology users and stuff, they are pretty aware of that, so they are willing to give in. It's not always that easy. Sometimes, you would hear something like, "Oh, maybe we could fix that on the second phase. Let's just finish it." Things like that. But over time, I would say we have come to a point where accessibility is really, really a priority, and it's really a matter of when you're saying this is not a great idea, just give a way forward, give a suggestion. This may not be great, but let's do it this way, and they would definitely entertain it and go with it. I guess if you're just rejecting something without really giving an option, that's a problem. But other than that, I'm finding, we work pretty well overall, and they're receptive.
Yeah, that's great to hear, and I guess that also speaks a lot about the culture of the organization, being able to engage with different teams and different stakeholders. Now, I want to maybe take a little bit another way. I'm wondering, do you know or have you experienced overlays? And if so, what is your experience and your thoughts on overlay tools?
So where I work, we never have them, but I do know what they are. I have seen them in the websites. I have actually tried them without mentioning any websites. Uh, I think they are like a temporary solution. They're not, in my opinion, they should not be a solution. But some people do them for different reasons. So they could be a temporary solution because you're not actually fixing the code. This is the insert one line of JavaScript and it presents certain way to users. At the same time, it doesn't work very well with users' own assistive technology. A lot of these overlays come with their own readers or other things. So to me, I definitely would stay away from that. It's not a solution because eventually if you remove that one line of script or two line of script, it's back to where it was. So it doesn't really solve the issue. And it could give especially companies, organizations a false sense of security that they are accessible. So for the people who know, they can reject it or they can temporarily use it as a solution. But for companies, I think when it is sold as a service, I think we need to be very clear that it's actually not fixing the code and it should not be used long term. But my personal opinion is avoid them altogether.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I agree. Sometimes there may be an interim solution, and organizations just have to be clear in terms of what they can do with it and what it can actually do. Now, our last questions before we finish this great interview is for people who are just starting in their accessibility journey, do you have any advice? What are some of the things that you would like to provide as an advice?
Yeah, I would say definitely, as I said earlier, I wish I knew about screen readers early on. So I think get a screen reader. NVDA is a great one for free. Really uh, understand, try to navigate a web page, your favorite site, or sites you usually frequent just with a screen reader. And then you will realize if a site is really coded very well, it's easy and it's inclusive for everybody. But if it's not, it's such a problem for somebody to just get little information, right? So I would say start with screen reader, but once you understand how it works, then I think you really will love, using semantic HTML because by default, HTML is accessible. We just run into problems when we try sometimes to get fancy, and also depends so much maybe on ARIA. So I would say it's good to know ARIA, what ARIA does, its capability, but know your HTML, know the semantic nature and the accessibility features, but definitely start with a screen reader. It will open your view completely.
Thank you, Samuel. I really appreciate you being part of Accessibility One-on-One. Thank you for being a speaker in our event. And again, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you.